This afternoon, we're going to be talking about aging in Central Texas. I think a lot of people don't realize it, but Austin has the fastest growing population in the nation of people 55 to 64. So we've asked 4 people who work directly in this field to talk us about where we are as a community in dealing with this silver tsunami, if you will. First of all, we have John Weisenbaum. He is with the AARP, the Texas Executive Council. We have Teresa Ferguson, who is Executive Director of AustinUP, and this is a nonprofit aimed at making Austin more age-friendly. Then we have Al Lopez, who is the COO of Workforce Solutions Rural Capital Area. And we have Pam Saez, who is Director of Back to Work 50 Plus at Austin Community College. Thank you all for sharing your time and expertise with us. The first question I have is just basic. So where are we in Central Texas dealing with this big influx of people 55 plus? Who wants to start? Yeah, go, Teresa.
Let me just tell you the playing field. So it all started back in 2010 with the census results that told us exactly what you said, that all of these older adults, these boomers, are moving to Austin. And so Mayor Lee Leffingwell at the time, I think they were a little surprised by that. And he said, okay, so let's convene the Mayor's Task Force on Aging, bringing all these people working in the aging space together to figure out how we are going to deal with this growing group of people coming to Austin. And so now we have a commission on seniors. We have AustinUP kind of bringing everybody together. We have passed the Age-Friendly Austin Action Plan as an addendum to the Imagine Austin Comprehensive Plan, which is great. It looks at urban living, urban planning through the eyes of older adults, talking about things like housing, transportation, et cetera, and older adults. So that is working. The city of Austin has a lot of momentum in working on the work groups who are implementing the plan. So when I find myself working with AARP or ACC, they also are, they have initiatives around aging. So there's momentum, Judy. That's the bottom line.
So we are addressing this big influx of people 55 plus. What about on the job front? This is where your 2 areas of expertise come in. Are we seeing people trying to kind of reinvent themselves? Or, you know, it's scary when you're in your 50s, for example, and you lose your longtime job. So these are a lot of people moving to town and also folks just who have already called Austin home. So how are we doing on the job front? Where are we there?
Absolutely. I would say that what happens to many people in the 50 and up demographic is they are having to reinvent themselves or re-career or go back to school to upskill in terms of maybe their IT skill set, et cetera. But what we do see is that if you're coming to Austin and you don't have a network, if you've been in Austin and you've been holding down a long-time job and all of a sudden you've been laid off, if you're a stay-at-home mom and your kids are now in college and you're re-entering, for all these different reasons, it's quite challenging to get a position if you're 50 and older, and so people are heading back to college to reinvent themselves.
And this program at Austin Community College will address that aspect of it. They're helping with the education of the 50-plus folks.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure this is also an issue at Workforce Solutions, especially in the rural area. I mean, and we are a region. Sometimes we think of Austin only, but this is a regional issue.
So at the workforce level, we have a program that's called So What If You're 40 and Older? And it's held once a month, and folks that are just looking for opportunities to reinvent themselves or change careers, or maybe they had always wanted to be, they'd been an at-home mom and they decided it's time to move forward into a career that they'd always wanted to do. They can go to those workshops, and the staff talk to them about all the different things that you've just mentioned, about how to write a resume. But not just a resume, how to write a resume that communicates in the digital age, where they're looking for keywords and the search is being done by computers. They're also provide them the opportunity to do career searches. And so I could tell you about one particular young lady.
You have an anecdote for us?
I do. She had always been a hairdresser her entire life, but she had always wanted to be a nurse. She was 55 years old and said, I'm just going to walk in and see what they tell me. Well, in the current environment, where jobs are plentiful, particularly healthcare jobs, it's easy to get people into nursing careers or start them on their journey to nursing careers. And so she went through and she completed that course, and she's now a registered nurse. So a lot of people are, have the courage now to walk into the workforce centers and say, I want to find out about going back to work or improving my career or improving my standing, particularly in the rural communities, where most of them have gotten a job that they got when they were younger, and so now they're at a point in life where they say, I want to really do what I really wanted to do my entire life.
Mm-hmm. John, from a statewide perspective, I know with your work as the former commissioner of the Department of Aging and Disability Services, where are some areas where we could improve? What are some ways that we could improve as a state and a community in better serving this 55-plus generation?
I think there are a lot of opportunities, and it's important for folks to realize that the aging population and this influx of folks 55 and up is as much an opportunity and a growth potential for communities around the state as it is a challenge. Mm-hmm. I think the same areas, for instance, in Austin, in our community, the two areas that people name the most in general as challenges being affordability and mm-hmm. mobility, transportation, mm-hmm. are also huge challenges for folks who are older. And so both of those.
Is it tied together? Is transportation, affordability, jobs, housing, it's all part of the big picture, right? No matter what your age. Is that the case?
I would definitely feel so. Yeah. We're an integrated community. That we set these categories of age. Mm-hmm. Of age, but really people are living together, and then mm-hmm. We're experiencing all of those things mm-hmm. as a community.
Is that the ultimate goal, Teresa? And I know that you and I have talked about this whole multi-generational community, and I'm lucky because on our little cul-de-sac where we live, we have people. We have an 80-year-old couple. We have middle-aged couples. We have a lot of couples with young kids. I mean, that's kind of ideal, isn't it? Is that kind of the model that Austin would like to have more of?
Definitely. And when we're talking about that multi-generational living, we need to talk about walkable neighborhoods. Because wouldn't it be great if we could move to a place where we could get rid of a car if you're in a two-person household, and you could walk to a restaurant or walk to the library. That's what we need more of. Really, we only have Miller.
Yeah, that's really the only area.
Yeah, affordable options affordable living options for older adults is key, because a lot of people look at the retirement communities, those large hotel-like settings, and think, there's no way that I'm going to be able to afford that when I get to be a older senior. So we need more options.
Affordability is a huge issue, and I guess that's where you guys come in, because I haven't seen the statistics, but I know that the baby boomer generation is just not as prepared for retirement as our parents were. A lot of them had pensions coming in. So how can we better handle that group that is going to be working into the traditional retirement mm-hmm. age?
That's absolutely correct. That 66% of baby boomers today have already said, we can't retire and we're going to work for the duration of our lifetime. And that's definitely because there are fewer pensions, 401ks perform a little volatilely, and savings are definitely lower. This number is escalating, though. That's what's interesting, that it's, and the Gen Xers are following suit with the baby boomers. They, too, believe that they will work well into their 70s, if not 80s, because of this. And so what you need to do is get these generations. Austin's so interesting. We have the second highest millennial population in the nation and the fastest growing 50-plus population. And the skill sets of each are actually phenomenal. If we turn this into intergenerational collaboration, we are going to be one of the most innovative cities, and we're well on our way to doing that, because the skill sets of the 50 plus demographic are finance, business, life skills, relational. People don't think about emotional IQ and leadership skills, but and then our digital natives have this intense digital IQ. When you put the two together in diverse teams, you create magic. If you stay separated in your silos, then you can't get very far. So, yeah, we want to promote this.
Talk more, John and Al, about this whole multi-generational approach. What do you see from your perspective? And John, are there things that AARP is looking at when it comes to the multi-generational idea?
What we do is we provide classes in the workforce centers, particularly in the technology field. When we look at the 55 plus folks, they are taking classes to learn about Twitter and LinkedIn and all those other
Snapchat. Yeah.
and things that they've just heard words about, but they've never actually used. Facebook has become, it's like the largest, it's largely used by seniors
Yes.
To keep in contact with the younger generations.
And each other.
And each other. So we are seeing a lot more interest in technology. In our particular area, when you look at the eastern counties, a lot of those folks, not only did they have to spend their retirement funds, but most of them lost them all because we've had 3 major disasters. So they lost their homes, they lost their businesses, they had the fires, and then they had 2 major floods. And so in many cases, a lot of those folks were starting over when their businesses went away and things like that. And so they had the challenge of restarting their life right at the very bottom and moving up. But the interesting thing is we didn't hear a whole lot of those people complaining. They just showed up, and they were great for all the assistance that they were getting from both FEMA and at the workforce centers and from the state of Texas, the programs. I mean, they just, sent folks over to help them, and they were there ready to repurpose their life and get on with it. And so that's the interesting thing I think we see from the seniors in Central Texas is, they just don't want to sit on their hands and complain. They want to get back into their life. So,
is that what you're seeing at AARP too?
Oh, absolutely. Volunteerism's a huge opportunity for older Texans across the state. I know I volunteer at Meals on Wheels of Central Texas.
Great organization.
And, I am struck always by the range of volunteers, the age range of folks we have, the experience level, and it's this opportunity for people who are older both to serve and receive services. I think it's a huge part of that, and AARP is trying to promote all those volunteer opportunities.
How could we improve? What are some ways this community and really the state could do a better job serving this burgeoning 55 plus group?
I think that just changing the way we view aging would be huge. We look at aging through a very narrow and threatening lens. And it's funny because it's probably the last area of prejudice that's most widely accepted. When we think about diversity and equity and inclusion strategies in corporations and educational systems, they are not including age. They include gender, race, religion, et cetera, everything except age. But it's the most inclusive human characteristic we all have. We're all progressing along and aging. And it's very self-sabotaging. And so when I look at the way we're aging in Austin, we're a very fit population. We're outside, we're working out, we're volunteering, we're very high tech. I think that if we start to prepare younger generations for a much longer lifespan, a much healthier lifespan, where they're going to be cognitively sharp and wanting to contribute, and they're going to have decades of experience and knowledge to contribute, that's much more sexy than thinking that when I age, I'm going to lose my looks and be a burden.
Yeah, that's a negative viewpoint. What are some ways we could do a better job, Al?
I think what we are trying to do And what we're trying to encourage is moving educational opportunities out to the rural areas, because seniors really get frustrated driving into Austin,
All
just
of
like
us
everyone
do.
else. But you know,
Yeah.
we've created a lot of mobile training, and we're taking it out to the rural communities. And when we do that, and we reach the citizens, providing the training that they want, and they only have to go 2 or 3 blocks to those mobile trainers, then they're much more likely to try something new. And we didn't know if it was going to work, but now we have waiting lists for many of those portable training programs. And so I think the more we can push educational opportunities out there, particularly in careers that they're interested in healthcare or whatever, then they'll be much more likely to want to change careers or try something new.
Teresa, ways to improve.
2 things. One is to take the message to a wider audience, which would include the employers, to talk about the benefits of a multi-gen workplace, which is great, and then fighting ageism in the workplace, and then also it comes from ourselves. Like, for example, how many times have you heard people say, oh, I'm having a senior moment, or, oh, I'm just getting old, or, you know, well, we need to change that in ourselves, that whole tone, changing it for the positive. And it not only affects us, we're talking about, you know, people in our 50s or 60s, but ageism and that kind of behavior starts for people in their 40s as well. So it's not just about the boomers.
Yeah. John, some ways you think we can improve?
Well, I really resonate with getting the message out to folks that the way that you would want to live your life, the rest of your life, and the issues that you may be having with your own family members and trying to take care of your own parents, for instance, are the same issues that everyone in this community is dealing with, and that it's a community issue that we can all improve if we're pulling together.
I know we've spent the majority of the time talking about the 55 to 65-year-old population, but let's spend just a little bit of time talking about the seniors, the true seniors, the elderly, because it seems in Austin it's so difficult for older folks to be able to afford to stay here. What are some ways we can help our true senior citizens, both in the rural areas and right here in the city? What are some things that are working? Where could we improve?
I think that, and in educational perspective, we have seen plenty of 65 to even 80-year-olds enter our program, and they're sharp and they want to learn. What we tend to focus on in education, what we say with ACC, is that we are pushing for dual credit, accelerated ways of getting high school students through college and high school simultaneously, so that they can get these economical bachelor's degrees or 2-year degrees and have their workforce skills and shove off. But we need economical ways in parallel for the older generation, including the 65s and up, who are already on record saying we are going to be working for the next 10 to 15 years. That's the length of some careers. And so if we don't start focusing on, rapid deploy economical ways of getting them the workforce skills, we're going to feel it in regional economics.
And this is luckily a region that has a lot of job opportunities.
Yeah.
I'm going to say, as somebody that's already exceeded that 65 limit, what I would hope that we would see more of is how the multi-generation workforce can actually work together, what we can expect from each other, and how we work differently, how we approach problems differently. Life goals are different because now that we are starting to have younger and younger folks coming into our offices, it's really tough for those of us that are over that 65 group. I mean, they handle 5, 6, 7 projects at one time without even thinking about it. And throughout my entire life, I had always been focused on maybe 1 or 2, and you took it through to the end, and then you started looking for another project. But they're working on so many projects at the same time and think nothing of it. And so learning how to work in a multi-generational workforce, I think, is extremely important.
No matter what you're in.
No matter what, well, especially those of us that are over
65 plus, gotcha.
And that it's not an us versus them. We should never go that way. You know?
Exactly.
You always hear the proverbial, get off my lawn.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
Those darn scooters on campus, what are those young people thinking?
Not what we should be about. As far as vulnerable elders, there are vulnerable elders in our community. And so when we're implementing the Age-Friendly Austin Action Plan, the challenge is always, we have services here, how do we get the services to the people who need them most? And sometimes elders are, isolated, they're living, they're aging in place, which is great, that's the trend. However, that means isolation, so how do you reach them? How do you support caregivers who are taking care of our elders? Those are key issues, really important.
That whole aging in place thing is very stressful on not only, as you said, the person who's trying to stay in their home, but the person helping them, the caregiver as well. That's a very good point. But I think a lot of people in our generation would like to age in place. I mean, that's kind of the ultimate goal.
That's right.
John, how are we doing with the senior citizens?
Well, I think y'all have hit the nail on the head when it comes to the challenges that folks face with multiple disabilities, with multiple chronic illnesses that come into play when you get into those higher aging age levels. And it's important to have the resources there and to get the people to those resources. We have waiting lists for services in our state. We need to put more resources in to serve those who are most vulnerable. Our adult protective services needs attention at the state level. That's we put a lot of focus on child protective services, rightly so, to make sure that children who are abused or neglected are taken care of. But vast numbers of older people are neglected, have self-neglect. They may be isolated at home and not able to take care of themselves. We need a system that identifies those folks, gets them the help they need.
I have one final question. What would you like the young people in the audience watching this discussion to know about pre-seniors and seniors? What's something you think might be a misconception? What would you just like people to know about growing older? Other than we're all doing it. I mean, they're going to be here someday too. But what are some things you'd like for them to know? I'm going to get you to start, John, on this one.
Yeah, that it's a lot of fun. It's kind of nice to have been around the block a couple times and know what you like about yourself and what you want to do more to get more out of life. That just gets better and better as you get older and more aware of yourself.
Yeah, good. I call this stage the sweet spot. I'm really enjoying my life now. Teresa, what would you like people to know?
Okay, two things. One, to the younger generations, call your grandmother, call your mother. Because we talk about technology, and technology is my other point. Technology is important, but there's nothing that replaces that human touch and human voice. And then, as far as technology goes, as each generation ages, we'll have higher expectations about how technology can help us as we age. So entrepreneurs out there, let's get busy. Come on.
Come up with some new ideas that'll help us when we're
exactly. And
older.
use older adults' knowledge. Ask them what they need and what they want instead of just saying, I bet you're going to want that.
Yeah.
No,
yeah,
ask
great.
them.
What would you like younger folks to know?
I want them to know that we enjoy playing and we have a whole lot of fun when we get to be a senior. I still bike ride and kayak and hike, and I can sit down and talk with my grandchildren, as you're saying, and sometimes they're surprised that I didn't think you knew that. And we actually do know a few things, and we can carry on a conversation from time to time. So. That's what I'd like them to know.
Finally, Pam.
I think mine would echo what Al and Teresa said, collaborate. That your older peers have a lot of really interesting knowledge to share with you, and they need your digital skills. They just do. And so it's as important as reading. So be kind and be patient and swap that kind of information with your older peers.
This has been great. Pam, Al, Teresa, John, thank you so much for sharing your insight. And as I think this is the AustinUP slogan, aging, everybody's doing it. So it's something that we need to talk about and we need to be educated on. So thanks for sharing all of this information today. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Judy.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Decibel.
Yeah.